Hey everybody, my name is Joe Van, or Joseph Van Lanscoot, if you like long names, and I'm going to read to you guys from a book of mine. I'm going to do a little reading. I don't know if this is going to be a good video or a bad video, but any video is better than no video, I guess. I don't know. Slapping my knee too much. Now I have 4 books finished in total, so your first thought might be, oh, you're going to do a little reading for us? Okay, it's going to be from the first book. Well, no, it's actually going to be from the second one, entitled Blood Redemption. The reason for this, I don't know. I remember writing this one segment that's in the book. It's about halfway through, or a little over halfway through, that I just really enjoyed writing. So whenever I think of sending a sample of my writing or reading a sample of my writing, it's usually always from the second book. So no offense to my first, third, and fourth book, but that's just how it's come to be, I guess. I think it's also because there's a lot more context, or there might be a lot more spoilers with some of the other sections that I've consider some of my better pieces, segmented pieces of my work. So this one just seems to work the best in my mind. I don't know. I'll give you guys a little context first. So this here is the first book, Deviance. Nathaniel Ferrantino does not know what to believe. Is life only coincidence, or is it destiny? After one long day of love and loss, he runs away from home, not to be seen or heard from for almost 4 years. The one to find him is Vivian, and for her he chooses life on the road as a rubber tramp, stealing, fighting, and being free. Growing pains turn his life into a fever dream while their gang of nomad punks head east for revenge, and Nathan's aching question grows once more. So that's the first book. The one I will be reading is entitled Blood Redemption, and my back cover summary that I gave goes as such. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to relive your past? After 4 years of preparation, Nathan is again confronted with the one event surrounding his deepest dreams. Another failed attempt leaves Nate without direction. He must seek other means. Years fill with travels, teachings, abductions, hauntings, and love. Will it all finally be enough to make it through? Life is nothing if not persistent and fleeting. And then just for fun, I will read you guys the back covers of 3 and 4, just so you can get a sense of my entire writing thingamajig. The third book is called The Land of N, Birth of a King. I can understand if a lot of you are confused when you see E-N-E and that's supposed to be N. English language, what can I tell you, right? Even though I made up the word, it's N, because why not? So the back goes, the act of duty is a philosophy that transcends time. 16-year-old Finian Lorani first becomes a knight for his safe and well-tempered country of Scarterback, with dreams of climbing the ladder to greatness. But when a fanatical leader of a hateful movement migrates south, Finn must propel himself into situations no one his age should deal with. After the dust settles and the spilled blood dries, whom shall emerge? A boy, a man, or a king? So that's that one. And the fourth one is called Cure for a Nightmare. This one, story-wise, is a direct sequel to the third one. And the back cover goes as such. Living does not guarantee feeling alive. The King Emperor Finian receives word of his sister's murder, so he travels over ocean to investigate. Once he arrives in the land of Hain, things quickly go awry, with his life put at risk. A rare poison begins its course in the king's veins, forcing his people's party to desperately trek the strange lands of Nor for a cure. As time runs out, Finn must question if suffering simply to exist is really worth it. There's a lot of themes that take place throughout the books, but they all cover the same kind of thing, which is individuals seeking the meaning of life, essentially, right? Just with relationships and with what they want to do with their life and that kind of stuff. So without any further ado, I will jump into Chapter 9, To Help You Along. What day was it? What year? So much had been lost. Deep, raw sadness filled the forest of evergreens. A man, once a child, stumbled his way through a small clearing to its end, intending to rest on the trunk of a pine tree. He walked through ankle-deep snow as it fell from the gray sky. All the trees tried their best to collect the little puffs of crystallized hydrogen-2 oxygen, but the man was doomed to freeze his feet from the get-go. Aside from a thin hospital gown, he was naked, and his body could not manage the temperature. He sat down and rested his back on the tree trunk. Feelings of hopelessness cascaded across his mind. He felt like a man without a home, a man without anything. The spirit could only endure so much before it would drop in anguish and defeat, and that sad event was happening in that moment. His bottom lip quivered, and water swelled in his eyes. It's impossible, he mumbled to himself, taking a blow at his own ego. It's all impossible. I just wanna... He took a shiver in that made him swallow the little saliva he had in his mouth before continuing. Fade into obscurity. He sighed as more tears came, and he continued to put himself down. If ever I never had a reason, well... He shook his head wearily. I do now. The process of hypothermia was well on its way. Nathan wallowed silently as tears froze on his face. Then he snuffled from a sticky nose. Drowsiness came in his shivering mental breakdown, and he closed his eyes. Consciousness left him. The Earth continued its rotation as it chased the sun around the edge of the galaxy. There was no wind among the scattering trees, and it made for the type of calm most people would die for. Moments passed like this, and it seemed to be an end of one life's suffering. Nathan's body was reaching critical conditions. Soon he would die. And would it be so bad? The whole world was in terribly increasing danger, but was its safeguard ever chosen to be him? The military could quite possibly stop an attack after a month or so. It was possible. Vivian would eventually move on, if she hadn't already. Life would continue, and everything would be okay. There was no more need to suffer. Until a fur-covered figure appeared in the distance through the trees. The creature's feet crunched in the snow as it neared Nathan's body. Sal's tied-back, jet-black hair shimmered as he drove a pickup truck down the narrow road. Nathan looked at Sal while he was looking forward at nothing. His body drove, but he was somewhere else. We're not meant to be alone in this world, Nathan. That's what I'd like to believe. Nathan woke up. He was lying on a small, flattened mattress that only kept his limbs from the hard ground. His body was wrapped in fur. The wall beside him was made of a similar hide, and angled up to the right, meeting the ceiling at one point just wide enough for smoke to escape. He was in a hut. A fire was crackling to the right of him. He placed his arms down to lean himself up, and the sound of burning tobacco alerted him of another's presence in the hut. On the other side of the fire, an old man sat cross-legged, smoking from a pipe. The old man had a bushy beard and a scrutinizing look on his face. The two looked at each other for a moment. Then, a large coy wolf entered the hut through its flap door by Nathan's head. The coy wolf walked over to the man and sat beside him. Unalarmed, Nathan sat himself up, and the old man took his cue to speak. I watched your dreams while you slept, he slid from his mouth. His accent was ancient, and his pace was steady. A terrible fate has fallen on you, Nathan. How do you know my name? Nathan asked. His voice was scratchy from not being in use for some time. The man puffed his pipe. I told you, I watched your dreams. I have seen the terrible things done to you, and the terrible things you have done. You are cursed with the knowledge of what is to come. So am I. But you are not helpless. What else lives inside of you? I don't know. It doesn't appear to be sentient. The man nodded. Who are you? How can you watch my dreams? My name is Enkudabao. It means man who lives alone. And I am we. We are cut from the same cloth. Lives beyond our own. Our mind holds the ability to see ahead of time. Nathan blinked hard and inadvertently let out a deep yawn. He could notice his surroundings more clearly as he better woke up. Where am I? He asked. You were inside my hut. I found you freezing to death outside in the snow. Where are we? What country is this? We are near Moosonee in northern Ontario. You have been here before, but also never been here. Very strange. If you also have precognition, have you met Sinophie? Only through you. We spoke for some time, but she is very alien in her words. She is prolific, but will not be of any true help to you. Nate shook his head. Well, no one can help me anyway. There's no one out there like me that can do this. He lifted the logs of fire an inch in the air and dropped it, surprising Nkudabao wildly, but kept talking as if it was nothing new. That's why I have to take this all on my own. Do you feel alone? Nkudabao asked. Nathan looked at the ground, and his eyebrows pulled to the center of his head. He exhaled despair through his nostrils. What the f*** would you call this? I am alone, and everything I do is never enough. It's never good enough, and I can't find help in anyone. His voice was shaking. At times, I feel like I'm suffocating inside my own skin, like there's no one I can tell. Even alone, I was able to get to a higher state of consciousness before I was abducted, but then they got me and f***ed with me like I was anyone else. He gripped his head in anxiety with both hands and scratched down on his hair. It was so easy for them, and I was helpless. His breathing increased dramatically, and he banged his fist down in a fit. The koi wolf growled. Calm yourself, Nkudabao barked. Your mind is just now back from whatever they put in your system. This low you are feeling will pass. In embarrassment, Nate looked away, keeping his gaze down. His breathing came to rest, and he attempted to stand up, but the bullet wound in his leg kept him down. Nkudabao watched without interfering. Your name, Nathan. Do you know what it means? Nathan caught his breath before looking up from the ground, and answered, Yeah, it means gift from God. He shook his head and huffed at himself, thinking about just how pompous the title sounded. Maybe you could use a better name, one that does not give you so much stress. Nate smiled at him, feeling a bit lighter. What do you have in mind? The man took a stick resting beside him and etched in the ground to the side of the fire. E-N-E. Een? Nathan asked. The second E is silent, said Nkudabao for clarification. He was speaking quicker now, as if he too had been waking from a long slumber. Like the first letter of your name, N comes from the Greek name Enos, meaning mortal man. He put his pipe down and stood up, walked over to Nathan, and put a large hand on his shoulder as an act of condolence. You are different, Nathan, but you are still human. He patted the shoulder and walked out of the hut. It is not a bad thing. The koi wolf followed suit, and Nathan pushed himself to stand again, feeling pressure on the bullet wound. He ignored it and rose to follow Nkudabao outside. The three walked in a line through the snow-covered woods. You've been unconscious for 3 days. Do you know what year it is? It's 2021, isn't it? No. We still have 1 year. Snowflakes floated down in sparse space between the spruce, pine, and other evergreen trees. A strand of rope wrung the rim of a wrangle-shaped, cone-bearing carnivorous tree at the end of the group's walk. Nkudabao grabbed the rope and pulled it away from the tree. It crunched from the freezing frost and wrung tight with a tug. He gave it a whip, and the other end of the rope produced more weight, sliding down from its biding place. The blood would have had my friend here devour it, Nkudabao said towards the koi wolf that sniffed the package with detail. He got on one knee, waving away the koi wolf, and unwrapped the leather. Inside was a stiff hospital gown. You didn't have to keep it. It wasn't my decision to make. There was a coin in one of the pockets. He pulled it out and handed it to Nathan. Nate looked at the coin, and the image of murdering Marta flashed in his mind. It made him wince. He slowly opened his eyes and examined the coin in remorse. You wish to discard it, in hopes of washing the pain away? Nkudabao asked as he stood up. You will carry your memories forever, with or without artifacts. Nathan sighed, knowing the man spoke truthfully. He thought about asking Nkudabao why he helped him, but he held his tongue. He thought about asking what he would do, but held his tongue. Finally, he said aloud, "What do you think the odds are that I landed so close to you, and Kudabao, and not someone else?" "Are you asking me if I believe in destiny?" Nathan shrugged. "If the future is set, then we have no agency. I have enough anxiety towards never-ending death." "Would you call it a half and half?" "I would call it slim odds, Nathan. Claim what meaning you want, what meaning you need from it. The rest of this is indifference in all its beauty." The young man nodded. "It's easy to see you have an old soul." And Kudabao accepted the compliment with a nod. "Thank you," Nathan added. "Go, then. Fulfill your destiny, N." Nathan smiled and closed his eyes. He disappeared, and the air around him collapsed to fill in the space. It caused Kudabao's heart to skip a beat. "Tatapwe," he hissed upon catching his breath. The koi wolf howled goodbye, and everything was as it should have been once again. The bulk of the world had successfully depressurized. Okay, and that is it. That is a reading from Chapter 9 of Blood Redemption, part of the True Volition Hexology. So thank you guys so much for listening. Hopefully it was entertaining. Hopefully it got you interested in what the heck the story's all about. You can let me know. You can reach out to me. My email can be found on my website at thejovan.com. You can also find a podcast that I have there. Just a lot of other experimental stuff. I have poetry there. I have thought pieces, things like that. But yeah, thank you guys again for listening, and have a safe quarantine and a good day. Bye-bye.